In this video, I'd like to take a moment to just briefly talk about the .NET Framework class library. Now, as you know, when you create .NET applications, you not only create your own classes and other types to use in your code, but you take advantage of existing types, such as the string class for representing string objects, such as the console class for performing input and output. Now, everybody who's going to program in .NET should take the time to study the .NET Framework class library, which is loaded with thousands of types that you can use as the foundation for building your applications. And what these classes and other types do for you is they help you focus on the task that you need to perform by handling all sorts of lower level details for you. So for example, you don't have to worry about how a string gets represented in memory. You simply use strings in your programs. You don't have to worry about how to get text to appear in a console window or how to read characters from the user at the keyboard. All of those low level details are handled for you, for example, by the console classes WriteLine and ReadLine methods. So it's important, in order for you not to reinvent the wheel, that you take the time to study the online .NET Framework class library documentation and get a sense of the capabilities that are available there for you. Now, I'm just going to go ahead and zoom in on this URL here. So this is the URL for the top level overview of the .NET Framework class library documentation. And if I zoom back out here, down below you'll see that there's a table full of namespaces, and with each namespace there's a brief description of what you can find within that namespace. So as an initial step, every new .NET programmer should certainly take a look at the names of the namespaces and their brief descriptions to get a general sense of the capabilities that are available to you. So as you scroll down here, you'll start to see things like the system namespace that we've been using in our examples, and it'll give you a brief definition of what that namespace is all about. And then if you want to see more about that namespace, such as all of the types defined within it, you click the namespace name and it will take you to the summary page for just that namespace. And you'll notice over here at the right we have classes, structures, interfaces, delegates, enumerations, and then also some remarks, which are additional information about the namespace as well. And as you scroll through just the system namespace here, you'll see that there are literally dozens upon dozens of types here that you can take advantage of in your existing applications or the applications that you're in the process of developing. And the only way to get a full sense of what's available to you is to kind of browse your way through the documentation. So going back to the main overview here, so for example, here's the system.collections namespace that we'll start using in lesson 9, where we introduce language integrated query. And in that collections namespace are various predefined data structures that you can use in your code. And in fact, these are the original data structures that were built into .NET when it was first introduced. There's also a generic version of those data structures that are type specific, where you say in advance these are the types of values we intend to store in those collections. And as you scroll down, you'll see that there's lots and lots of other capabilities built into the .NET framework. So if you know you need to perform input and output, for example, you need to read and write from files, you're probably going to want to take a look at the system.io namespace. If you know that you need to do graphics, you might need to take a look at the system.drawing namespace. And if I scroll down here, I mentioned the language integrated query a few moments ago. When we get to that, we're going to be using features of the system.link namespace. If you're going to do low-level networking, you're probably going to need to take a look at the system.net namespace. If you want to do multimedia, there's a system.media namespace. So again, take the time to look at the names of all the different namespaces, read the brief descriptions of the namespaces to get a general sense of what's there, and that will help you locate capabilities as you need them when you're developing your .NET applications.